Hi everyone, this is Dr. Avani Ratan, your faculty at Conceptual Psych, and today we are going to cover up the topic prosocial behavior. So, what is prosocial behavior? Prosocial behavior refers to the actions by individuals that help others, often with no immediate benefit to the helpers themselves. So, this fascinating aspect of human behavior, it ranges from small acts of kindness to heroic interventions that save lives. So, consider Chris Isle's story. On a sunny day in Iowa, he spotted a car frozen on railroad tracks with a train rapidly approaching. So, without hesitation, he ran to the car. He shouted at the elderly couple inside to move. And when they remained frozen in fear, he physically pushed their car off the tracks, missing the oncoming train by mere inches. So his split-second decision saved 2 lives. Another story is that on a larger scale, the engineers developed efficient cooking stoves to help billions of people worldwide who rely on dangerous polluting stoves. So they did this without seeking profit, demonstrating prosocial behavior that benefits millions. Why people help? What are the motives for this prosocial behavior? First is the empathy-altruism hypothesis. It feels good to help. So the empathy-altruism hypothesis suggests that we help others because we can experience their emotional states and we want to reduce their suffering. Empathy actually has 3 components. First is emotional empathy, which is sharing others' feelings. Sharing others' feelings. Then there is empathetic accuracy, which is accurately perceiving others' thoughts and feelings. This is accurately perceiving others' thoughts and feelings, like everyday mind reading. Then there is empathetic concern, feeling concern for another's well-being. So, when you see a friend crying after a breakup, you might feel their sadness, which is emotional empathy. You understand why they're upset? That is empathetic accuracy. And you genuinely care about their recovery, which is empathetic concern. Now, let us understand what are mirror neurons. So, our brains contain specialized cells called mirror neurons that activate both when we perform an action and when we observe others performing the same action. So, these neurons, they literally help us feel what others are experiencing, providing a biological foundation for empathy. When do they activate? When we perform an action and when we observe another person perform the same action. Now, coming to the empathy-altruism hypothesis by Batson et al. Let's talk about Sarah. She sees a homeless man shivering in winter. She doesn't know him. She won't see him again. And nobody's watching. Yet she gives him her jacket. This is pure altruistic motivation, helping solely because someone needs him. Now, the key components are again the emotional empathy, feeling others' emotions, empathetic accuracy, understanding others' thoughts, and empathetic concern, caring about others' well being. So, people with higher empathetic accuracy have better social relationships and more friends. Then there is negative state relief, helping to feel better, Cialdini et al. So the negative state relief model, it proposes a more self-focused motivation. We help others to reduce our own negative emotions. So you're having a terrible day after failing an exam, you see someone drop their books and you help them pick that up. This act of helping makes you feel better about yourself. It temporarily relieves you from your negative mood. So we help others to elevate our own distress. So here, people in negative moods help more if helping will improve their mood. So if mood improves, one starts to help more. Now, the empathetic joy, the happiness of helping. Smith, Keating and Stotland. So the empathetic joy hypothesis suggests that we help because we enjoy seeing others' positive reactions to our assistance. So think about giving a gift to someone you care about. Their smile and excitement makes you feel wonderful. That's empathetic joy in action. So research across 136 countries shows that people who donate to charity, they reported higher life satisfaction, which suggests that helpers high is universal across cultures. Now there is competitive altruism. Nice guys don't always finish last. This was given by Flynn et al. Sometimes we help others to boost our own status and reputation. This seemingly selfish motivation can lead to genuinely helpful behaviors. So for an example, Boone Pickens donated $100 million to the Oklahoma State University. While genuinely caring about the institution, he also gained tremendous recognition. The stadium bears his name. That is the example of competitive altruism. Then, kin selection theory, Hamilton and Cialdini. From an evolutionary perspective, we are more likely to help family members because it increases the chances that our genes will survive. Research also confirms that we are more likely to help close relatives over distant relatives, young relatives over elderly ones because they have more reproductive years ahead. So here, we are more likely to help family members. Reciprocal altruism theory, the neighborhood watch principle. You help your neighbor today because you watch their house. They help you tomorrow to collect your mail. This isn't kin selection, it's helping non-relatives because this is reciprocated. So professional networking works this way. You help a colleague build a web of mutual obligations. Defensive helping. You're protecting your group status. So sometimes we help members of other groups to maintain our own group's superiority, a phenomenon which is called as defensive helping. So students from a prestigious university might tutor students from a rival school, but in ways that subtly reinforces that they need help, thereby maintaining their own school's superior status. Now, we have discussed empathy altruism, negative state relief, empathetic joy, competitive altruism, kin selection, and defensive helping. This is why do we help. Moving on to responding to an emergency. Will bystanders help, or what is bystander effect? So the tragic case of Kitty Genovese, murdered while numerous witnesses watched from their windows without calling police, it led researchers to discover the bystander effect. The more witnesses are present, the lesser is anyone to help. Why does this happen? क्यों होता है ऐसा? Because of diffusion of responsibility. When multiple people witness an emergency, each assumes someone else will help. So when they are alone, 85% of people helped. When there is another person, 62. Then 4 others, only 31 helped. So if you collapsed on a busy street versus a deserted one, counterintuitively, you would be more likely to receive help on the deserted street. So sad.